Sheryl Swoopes, a legendary player in the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, has been revealed to be the only person who voted for Angel Reese to be named Rookie of the Year. This revelation has caused the WNBA community to be rocked. Fans and analysts alike are in complete and utter disbelief as a result of this vote, which comes during a season in which Caitlin Clark broke records and dominated the league. How is it possible for someone with Sheryl Swoopes' basketball IQ and legacy to make a decision that is so contentious? We will see that the answer lies in a combination of prejudice, resentment, and an unwillingness to accept the meteoric rise of Caitlin Clark during the course of this discussion. Let's dive into this controversy and uncover the details of how Swoopes ended up casting one of the most puzzling votes in WNBA history.
And your first WNBA game, was it everything you expected it to be? I know it wasn't the outcome you wanted, but tell us, how did you feel about your first performance?
Yeah, I thought we played really hard. Just a great atmosphere for women's basketball. I think it's a good kickoff to the WNBA season. I think the way we played, there's some things we could have executed a little better. I thought we could have got into our offense a little bit better. The pace was amazing. That's fun basketball people like to watch, but overall, definitely what I expected.
Caitlin Clark emerged as a highly anticipated rookie in the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, and her initial few games did not disappoint. Even before she took her first step onto the court, it was abundantly clear that she was prepared to make an impression. This was a sentiment that was shared by many people, with the exception of Sheryl Swoopes. In spite of the undeniable talent that Clark possesses and her capacity to take the game to a higher level, Swoopes appeared unwilling to acknowledge her various contributions. The narrative that Swoopes refuses to give Clark the credit that she deserves is only strengthened by the fact that she voted for Angel Reese. Throughout the season, Swoopes had subtly minimized the achievements that Clark had achieved.
I think Angel will eventually be a good pro. I don't think Angel will come into the league immediately and dominate the way people think she will. And I say that for people who have never watched a WNBA game. It's good. Like, there's talent, like these women can play. And because there are very few roster spots.
At first, Swoopes indicated that she had some reservations about Angel Reese, implying that she would not immediately become the dominant player in the league. However, the fact that she voted for Reese to be the Rookie of the Year indicates that she did not share that sentiment at all. Is it possible that Swoopes made this decision with the intention of undermining Caitlin Clark's achievements? Or did he genuinely believe that Reese's performances were more honorable? Despite the fact that Angel Reese possesses a lot of talent, she did not have the same impact as Clark throughout the season. In comparison, Reese's numbers were insignificant, and her overall contribution to the game was not even close to being on par with the groundbreaking accomplishments that Clark had accomplished. With that being said, why did Swoopes choose to vote for Reese? The behavior of Swoopes throughout the course of the season is what we need to examine in order to comprehend this. She consistently minimized Clark's performances while either ignoring or exaggerating the contributions of other players. She did this over and over again. As a result of Swoopes' consistent failure to acknowledge Clark's dominance on the court, whether it was through podcasts, interviews, or social media, fans were left wondering if there was more going on than just basketball analysis.
3 WNBA MVPs in your career, would you consider each of those 3 seasons as dominant seasons for yourself?
No.
I can't. Bro, Sheryl Swoopes is willing to lie about her own career before she even admits that Caitlin is dominant. Do you know how fucking insane you have to be to lie about your own career?
But you were literally the best player in this,
Right. Because I think you can be the best player and not be the most dominant.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because I don't have it in front of me, but I wasn't the leading scorer.
You did lead the league in scoring when you won MVP in 2000. Not only did you lead the league in scoring, you led the league in steals as well. Even dare downplay yourself just because you don't want to admit that you were wrong. Bro, that's scary. I'd rather tear down my legacy and everyone else's legacy in WNBA history, not be able to identify anyone who's been dominant just because I don't have the gumption to put my pride aside and admit that I was wrong about Caitlin Clark and she is dominant. For those who don't know, that is a definition of self-destruction. Get her the fuck out this conversation.
The fact that Swoopes did not even acknowledge her own dominance during the seasons in which she was named Most Valuable Player is a glaring example of her tendency to minimize greatness. Within the context of an interview, she even resisted the idea of admitting that she was the most dominant player during her prime. In her current relationship with Caitlin Clark, she has adopted the same mentality as before. The inability of Swoopes to acknowledge that Clark is the best player on the court appears to be rooted in personal pride rather than providing an objective analysis of the situation. The overwhelming evidence that supports Clark's superiority is even more perplexing than the previous point. Caitlin Clark became a fan favorite during her rookie season, which resulted in her breaking records, leading the league in assists, and drawing massive crowds to each and every game she played in. However, Swoopes made the decision to disregard all of this information and instead select Angel Reese as the recipient of her vote for Rookie of the Year.
Because I think you can be the best player and not be the most dominant.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because I don't have it in front of me, but like I wasn't the leading scorer.
You did lead the league in scoring when you won MVP in 2000. Not only did you lead the league in scoring, you led the league in steals as well. Even dare downplay yourself just because you don't want to admit that you were wrong. Bro, that's scary. I'd rather tear down my legacy and everyone else's legacy in WNBA history, not be able to identify anyone who's been dominant just because I don't have the gumption to put my pride aside and admit that I was wrong about Caitlin Clark and she is dominant. For those who don't know, that is a definition of self-destruction. Get her the fuck out this conversation.
The fact that Swoopes is willing to minimize her own achievements is one thing. However, the fact that she refuses to acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is a dominant force in the Women's National Basketball Association is perplexing. It would appear that Swoopes would prefer to diminish her own legacy rather than acknowledge Clark's greatness of achievement. This mindset, which is driven by ego and possibly a fear of being overshadowed by the new generation, has resulted in a vote for Rookie of the Year that defies logic. World of basketball, Caitlin Clark has received an overwhelming amount of praise from other legendary players. The transformational impact that Clark has had on the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, has been recognized by commentators, players, and fans alike. However, Swoopes has remained silent and has refused to join in on the praise. It is almost as if she is feeling threatened by Clark's rise to prominence, as she has chosen to keep her distance from the conversation rather than embrace the new face of the league.
All Sheryl Swoopes did was validate all the speculation that there's folks hating on Caitlin Clark. That's all she did. Because to know basketball like Sheryl Swoopes does, to be as accomplished as she is, to be the Hall of Famer that she is, all accolades that are well-deserved. And I'm certainly not attacking Sheryl Swoopes the person because I think she's a wonderful person. She's certainly always been nothing but class and nice to me. I'm only addressing a point. How do you talk about the Indiana Fever and mention a multitude of players and not one of them is Caitlin Clark, who, by the way, as a rookie, is leading the league in assists?
Caitlin Clark was blatantly excluded from discussions regarding the success of the Indiana Fever, and even Stephen A. Smith, who is known for his candid opinions, called Swoopes out for her behavior. Despite the fact that Clark has been an essential contributor to the Fever's rise to prominence, Swoopes routinely excludes her from the discussion. The fact that Swoopes was selected as the Rookie of the Year is not a coincidence. Rather, it is the culmination of a pattern of behavior that has led to this result. Smith's criticism of Swoopes sheds light on the widening gap that exists between those who acknowledge Clark's brilliance and those, such as Swoopes, who refuse to give her the credit that she has rightfully earned. This brings us to the actual exercise of voting. Angel Reese was selected as the Rookie of the Year by Sheryl Swoopes in spite of the fact that Caitlin Clark led the league in assists, broke rookie records, and brought an unprecedented amount of attention to the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA. Although there is no doubt that Reese is a talented player, her season simply did not measure up to the heights of Clark's. In spite of the fact that the numbers speak for themselves, Swoopes nonetheless chose to cast her vote based on something other than performance.
If we had a number, if we would have said, when we're talking about dominating with Caitlin Clark, what would those numbers have? What was the numbers?
It would have been a scoring number.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Because of the high clip, shooting it.
Right, right.
We'd have been like,
That's what she did in
Do you consider
That's
20
what
points
I
per
was saying
game?
when you said
So
it.
you don't consider 20 points per game?
So if her stats, when we're saying she won't do this in the W, she averaged 31.6, 7.4 rebounds, 9 assists, right? Did anyone expect her to do that in WNBA?
Those three? No.
Right? So she didn't do that.
No.
Now, if we say her stats are today, what?
20 points, 8.4 assists, 6 rebounds.
That's crazy.
But 5
That's crazy.
Five
Is
point,
that dominant?
5.6
those are
turnovers,
hell of a
too.
number.
Those are hell
For
of
a
a numbers.
rookie.
But to me, that's not
Period.
dominating.
Yeah, it's only not dominating because she's a rookie.
Now,
If
okay,
No.
Yeah,
so
because if she's putting up numbers like Asia right now, would she be dominating?
yes.
So it's about
Yeah.
the numbers. I don't look at the dominating factor being numbers. It's what you're doing on the floor. And those numbers would change if the factors on the floor changes. If you make that layup, the stats change. If you swing, I get a layup, stats change. These are factors on the floor that we don't get to see because we're glorifying the stat.
The rookie season that Caitlin Clark had was unparalleled in terms of statistics. She led the league in assists, averaged more than 19 points per game, and brought an energy to the court that elevated the entire Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA. In light of the fact that Swoopes voted against Clark in favor of Reese, whose numbers were significantly less impressive, her objectivity is called into serious question with this decision. It has not taken long for the fans to react negatively. There has been a flood of responses on social media in response to Swoopes' vote, with many people criticizing her for what they perceive to be blatant bias. A great number of people have begun to question Swoopes' credibility as an analyst as a result of his decision to vote for Reese rather than Clark. I don't understand how someone with such a long history of playing basketball could make such a ridiculous decision.
People look at new players coming in, whether that's out of college, players who've been overseas, and they look at that and say, oh, you trying to come take my job. Like, nah, it's not gonna be that easy. So will Caitlin Clark be a good pro? Absolutely. Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now? Immediately? Absolutely not. Not gonna happen.
Okay.
Not on the right team?
A glimpse into Swoopes' frame of mind can be gained from her remarks regarding new players who are attempting to establish themselves in the league. Rather than looking at players like Clark as potential threats to her legacy, it appears that she is more concerned with the future of the WNBA. It is not unusual for former celebrities to have this mentality, but it is disheartening to see it manifest itself in such a public and damaging manner. In the aftermath of the Rookie of the Year vote, one thing has become abundantly clear. Sheryl Swoopes has been elevated to the role of the antagonist in a narrative in which Caitlin Clark is the unquestionable protagonist. The accomplishments that Clark has achieved in her rookie season speak for themselves, and no amount of prejudice or undermining can take away from what she has accomplished in that season. Caitlin Clark is at the forefront of the change that is occurring in the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA. Swoopes, on the other hand, has made the decision to cling to the past and has refused to acknowledge the greatness that is in front of her. Although her vote for Angel Reese will be remembered as one of the most contentious choices in the history of the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, it will not alter the fact that Caitlin Clark is the genuine Rookie of the Year. Caitlin Clark will continue to make her way to the top of the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, despite the fact that Swoopes' vote may have caused a stir in the end. Fans, players, and analysts are all aware of the truth, and however much bias there may be, it is impossible to deny the influence that Clark has had on the game. As for Swoopes, she will have to deal with the criticism and come to terms with the fact that the new generation of players, led by Caitlin Clark, is here to stay. What are your thoughts on this situation? Let me know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.